Hey everyone, Matt Straub here with the Rotoworld Basketball Crew. I'm joined by Tommy Beer, Ryan Knauss, Steve Alexander in the midst of our draft prep, getting ready for our fantasy leagues. Guys, last year we saw Pascal Siakam kind of take off out of nowhere, just a breakout fantasy and real-life star. Who are you guys pegging as kind of a guy who could take just kind of a massive leap in fantasy and in real life this year?
I like Marvin Bagley, Sacramento Kings. Willie Cauley-Stein is gone. We're Golden State running the show down there. Nemanja Bjelica got off to an incredible start last year. It really hurt Marvin Bagley. He was coming off the bench, eating into some of his minutes, and then Bjelica finally cooled off. Bagley started to come on. But Bagley averaged 15 points, almost 8 boards, and a block per game last year. He's a really high draft pick in his draft class. This is the year it all comes together. Some of the pieces that were holding him back are out of the way, and I just think he's going to run with the Kings and run all over people.
I mean, those numbers you just referenced for a 19-year-old, guys. That puts him in a position to have some scary upside.
Yeah, and he's a perfect candidate to increase his rebounds, point. I mean, I could see across the board increases on those numbers you just referenced. So that's a great pick. I'm going to take another similar young guy who could take a big leap this year, and that's Shay GildersAlexander. And now that he's on OKC, they are primed to just unleash him, I think. They've got Chris Paul there, but we don't know how long Chris Paul will be there. They could trade him, and even if Chris Paul is there, that doesn't really worry me because we've seen SGA play both guard positions. He was pretty much 50-50 for point guard and shooting guard last year. And he can play them both well and give you across-the-board stats. I think maybe rebounds is the only category in which he couldn't be a plus producer. But I'll take that for a second-year fantasy guy who you could potentially get around 40-50 in drafts. I'll take that every time.
My feeling on SGA, Tommy, I don't know if you agree with this, is he feels like a very high floor guy. I'm not sure how high his ceiling is. Like we didn't see him put up big numbers in college. Last year when he had a good stat line, it wasn't explosive per se. Like we saw Bagley just have some monster lines. I just feel like low ceiling maybe. Do you agree? Or?
I'm on the fence there. When he played at Kentucky, he was a young kid playing with the kind of established players with the Clippers. It was a playoff team. He was kind of the young guy, 19-year-old point guard. So I do love his upside. I think I love his long-term upside. I'm a little bit concerned about this year. I think they're going to try to bump up Chris Paul's value, have him play, kind of learn under. So I love SGA, in theory. I don't know if I'd be comfortable 40, 50. If he slips to 60, 70, I'm scooping him up right away. Right. I just don't know when I'm actually on the clock and there's other really talented, established guys on the board.
I like to hear this because then I might get him.
I'm buying the hype. I love SGA. I loved him last year. People are like, why do you love him? He's not doing all that much, to Matt's point. I mean, he never really had that eye-opening stat line last year. But I don't feel like his ceiling's super high, but I feel like it's high enough. And with his defense and everything else he does, I love him.
Yes, and Gallagher loves him too. So in Rotoworld circles, like in our drafts, he's going to go really high. So unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to get him, and I'm okay with that. I'm not sure he's ready to fulfill that potential. If you talk about young point guards in real life, guys I'd love to have, I think he's near the top. But as far as fantasy going forward next season, I'm a little bit gun-shy to invest the draft capital. It'll cost. A guy I'm not scared to invest draft capital in is my guy, Mitchell Robinson. New York starting center. We know he blocks a ton of shots, but he also shot 69% from the floor last season. Also was a relatively good free throw shooter for the second half of the season, was around 70%. For the year, finished at 60%, became the first player in NBA history to shoot over 69% from floor and over 60% from the free throw line. So I really like what he brings to the table. Did all that damage in playing only around 23, 24 minutes a night. We know that the Knicks brought in a lot of players, but they didn't bring in a starting center. So as long as he can stay out of foul trouble, stay healthy, I think he's a good chance to log in 28, 30 minutes a night. If he can do that, I think he's a good chance to lead the league, shoot a high percentage, really be a foundational piece for a good fantasy team. If you could get him even late second, I'd be willing to reach. I'd prefer him in the early third, and I just really love his upside, especially in 9 category leagues. Points leagues, not so much. 8, 9 category leagues, he's not going to turn the ball over a ton. I really love his upside.
The guy who, during his best stretch, was averaging better than 3 blocks a game down the stretch. So To me, it's not even crazy to think he could be in the upper threes, close to 4 blocks a game this year.
Yeah.
He was averaging almost 6 blocks per 36 minutes for a stretch there. I mean, that's insane numbers.
In one of our early drafts, I took Mitchell Robinson, I think, with the 12th pick, and I got a phone call from my buddy in Phoenix. He's like, "What is wrong with you?" I'm like, "Look, I just spent a week with Tommy Beer in Stamford, Connecticut, and listened to him talk about Mitchell Robinson, and I soaked it up. I ate the hype. I love it. I'm all about Mitchell Robinson. Mitchell and my other guys I've talked about all day.
I love him too, and I think he leads the league in blocks for sure. My problem is sort of what you said about SGA, that we're all so high on him that if Steve's drafting him at number 12 for a guy whose value is so heavily concentrated in one category, being blocks. And yes, he's very good at field goal percentage and won't kill you from the line, can get boards. But I want a little bit more versatility if I'm picking him mid-second round, something like that.
Yeah, I want him, and I don't think I'm going to get him in my leagues because Tommy will have him.
That's the conundrum.
Breakout guy I'm targeting, guys, is Jonathan Isaac. We already kind of saw the beginnings of a breakout from him last year, but just want to reiterate, after a slow start because of ankle trouble last year, he had a 30-game stretch where he averaged around 12 points, 6 boards, 1.6 blocks, 1.7 threes. He's 21, turning 22 just before the season. That puts him on the cusp of 2 threes and 2 blocks. One guy in the NBA did that last year, a unicorn by the name of Brook Lopez. So to me, Isaac is a young kid with just outrageous potential in threes and blocks, some steals too. I just think he's going to be a great value.
And I feel like we've been talking about him for a while, especially at Rotoworld, and I feel like people are like, when is Isaac going to break out? Like, why are we still talking about him? Why are we still doing this? Well, this has to be the year, right? I mean, I feel like it is.
It better be.
I'm still on board because I was going to say the same thing. We've been a year, 2 years too early on his breakout, but I think we've seen flashes of it. He's finally fully healthy this summer. He's going to go into the season with a specific role, a couple years under his belt. So I think this is the year.
That ankle worries me. Can he stay? Let me see him stay healthy for a year, then I'll be able to invest next year.
Keep the ankles taped, Jonathan. Keep the ankles taped.
Please.
Thank you, guys. For around-the-clock NBA news, rumors, injury reports, depth chart changes, analysis, more, go to rotoworld.com/NBA.